Good evening and welcome to our annual St. Joseph the Worker Banquet for Young Catholic Professionals Omaha. We couldn't have asked for a better evening of fellowship and celebration, kicking off a great 2020 calendar year in this new facility here at St. Vincent de Paul. My name is Justin Korth, and I served as president of YCP Omaha in 2019. Our chapter's beginning were rooted in the dedicated crew that saw the day coming where young adults in Omaha had a community to evangelize, grow in their faith, and find lifelong friendships. And right here at Young Catholic Professionals, that's what we do. As we celebrate 2019 tonight and all of our successes, we look forward to our organization's 5th full year of existence in 2020. I couldn't have asked for a more dedicated and inspiring leadership team that I had the privilege to work with here in 2019. At this time, I'd like the leadership team in 2019 to please stand. And I'd also like to thank Father Toby Leetack, our chaplain. He wasn't able to come tonight, but let's give these people a round of applause for their hard work. You guys can take a seat. I'd also like to thank Shannon McCoy, Alex Filipowitz, and Jim Gerner. They were instrumental to getting this evening accomplished, having catering, all the decor set up, and the slideshow and stuff is well made. And I'd also like to thank Maddie Schwenka. She's around taking pictures, but she put the slideshow together. So thank you to all of them. One of my goals as president in 2019 was to bring people together by putting more attention on the Executive Speaker Series events. We learned from a variety of speakers, of which I will name here in a little bit. So the Executive Speaker Series event is one of our main events as Young Catholic Professionals Omaha. It's held monthly at a different parish or school around the community. We bring in an executive from around town, and as you hear by these names, it can range from a variety of different industries, from business to healthcare to social work to public policy. So many different things that we learned this year from these people. They gave their time and their words of wisdom to us, and we're always thankful for them. So the list of our speakers this year were Dr. David Sample, Jeff Kovar, Sean Lynch, Dan Howard, Jessica Slattery, Governor Pete Ricketts, Matt Bover, Jim Volkel, Father Jeff Lorig, and Wendy Townley. Let's give them a round of applause. So many of you know that I am a CPA and an accountant by trade, so you know that I really like numbers. So I think the best way to demonstrate the impact that we have in the community is to just give a couple of stats about the different things that we did in 2019. In 2019, we held 25 events as YCP, 11 executive speaker series, 3 panels, 4 happy hours, 3 service events, 1 joint event with the Legatus chapter, and a gathering at the Arch Omaha Unite celebration in downtown Omaha. We also had 7 attendees from Omaha attend the national conference in Dallas, Texas in September, where we were able to meet people from other chapters around the country. Young Catholic Professionals is not only in Omaha, there are 20 total chapters around the country. So that's the annual celebration where we come together and learn from each other and also find a way to find connections across the country. So in case our jobs move or we're just traveling around the country, we have friends everywhere. Some more stats. We were hosted by 13 different parishes or schools for our events and our panels. We had 15 people serve on leadership. We had 6 board members who met quarterly, not monthly, quarterly to help us out with questions that we had, understand our finances and things like that, so we definitely appreciate their time. We had 12 panelists and moderators for our panel events. We had over 50 paying members for our membership program. And if you count the attendance of all our events, we had over 800 attendees at all of our events combined. So let's give a round of applause for all of that. So I know I thanked the leadership team here a couple of minutes ago, but among our group, we also held a vote just who were the most instrumental members of that leadership team who really drove the ship in 2019 and made our chapter such a great success. So we have 3 awards, and I will introduce those recipients now. For the most dedicated member, it is our Director of Operations, Jim Gerner. Can you please come up? We need music or something for you. The next award is most influential on leadership, and there was a tie, so I did not want to break the tie because I felt like both individuals were equally as deserving. So we have two recipients of the most influential on leadership award. First of all, I'd like our Director of Membership, Lindsay Carroll, to come forward. So I guess I didn't describe, I'll do a little bit here before I announce the second nominee. Jim Gerner, as Director of Operations, is the one who's in charge of setting up all these events. So making sure that the venue's booked, that the food's here, and that the drinks are here. So very important job. And Lindsay did a phenomenal job this year as our Director of Membership. Brought together the volleyball teams, panel events, and so many other things that really brought us closer together as a community. Now, the most influential on leadership award for our Director of Marketing, Allie Gold. Can you please come forward? So Allie, as Director of Marketing, was the one that you were seeing out on Facebook and our advertisements around the community to make sure that everybody knows about our events. And she was also in charge of all these handouts that you have at your desk or at the table tonight. Finally, our final award is Volunteer of the Year. That goes to our Assistant Director of Membership, Mr. Mark Morrow. Can you please come up? I met Mark 1 year ago on this night. He came to the St. Joseph the Worker Banquet last year, and from that moment he had big ideas and he got to work right away, helped out Lindsay a lot on membership, and also did our volunteer events for the year, so we thank you for all of that. At this time, I'm going to introduce our speaker. Meg Busing knows that everything can change in an instant. After emerging from a coma with a traumatic brain injury that would lead to a decade-long battle with intractable epilepsy, she found that she was still herself, but also someone entirely new. In the years since the accident, she has navigated a world that doesn't always understand invisible challenges and boldly pursued her dreams, becoming a registered nurse, a wife, and a mother of 3. Now she's sharing with others the value of becoming their own best advocate, building a strong community of support, and still finding things that they can do. Meg spent her college summers volunteering at a California camp for kids with cancer and their siblings, seeing what an amazing impact it had on kids affected by chronic illness. She made it her mission to bring that life-affirming experience to children with epilepsy across the Midwest. As founder and executive director of the Midwest UCAN Foundation, Meg has created Camp UCAN, a unique opportunity for kids and young adults with epilepsy to come together to see all that they can do. With epilepsy, too many people and their days are filled with reminders of what shouldn't or couldn't be done. Meg is on a mission to change just that. So help me in welcoming Mr. Meg Busing.
So much for having me here today. I'm honored to be here and just learning all that you do for our community and what a great group you are. I'm just honored to be here. He summed up kind of what I'm going to be talking about tonight Like he said, I'm a registered nurse, and I just want to give you a little background of how this camp and the organization came about. It was March 6, 1998, my freshman year of high school, and I was at the top of my game, successful basketball player on student council, and I was riding in the back seat of a car with 4 of my girlfriends on the way home from school. And the driver lost control of the car and it hit a tree. The first thing I remember is waking up in the hospital room. My parents were standing by the side of my bed, thrilled that after 7 days in a coma, I was finally awake. And then they told me what had happened. All the other girls in the car were okay, but I had a traumatic brain injury. So as a 14-year-old, keep that in mind, I remember immediately touching the top of my head and feeling a clump of brown spikes that were standing straight up like needles on a Christmas tree. And my mom handed me a mirror and my worst nightmare had come true. My hair was messed up. Freshman year of high school, keep in mind, and I remember my mom calmed me down and explained that the ER, that they had to shave my head in order to monitor the pressure in my brain. So as a 14-year-old, hearing what I had been through, I was sad, but also knew, man, if this is it, then it's no biggie. I remember I went on to rehabilitation at Madonna Rehab in Lincoln. And it was there that I worked with a speech pathologist. And she asked me to put a 10-piece puzzle together, and I couldn't do it. And I remember she held up a pen, just a pen, and asked me, Meg, what's this? And I remember I stared blankly at her. My heart was racing. I knew what it was, but just couldn't get the words out of my mouth. And it was at Madonna where I quickly learned that it wasn't just a piece of hair that I was missing. For the first time I noticed, or I realized, that the traumatic brain injury was something more serious than that. But I remember I went on to the doctor that, the summer after the car accident, because I had played freshman basketball, had played basketball my whole life, and I was just so ready to get back into the game. But then I remember Dr. Doug in Lincoln, he said, you know what, you had a traumatic brain injury. You're no longer going to be able to play basketball. The risk of another head injury is just too great. And I remember I started crying because I had worked so hard my whole life, 14 years, to play basketball. It was like my life. And I remember he took my hand and he said, you know what, Meg, if you saw what I saw in the hospital, you would know that your chance of survival was very slim. So you're here for a reason, and you're lucky just to be here. So instead of basketball, I ran with the cross-country team. Instead of can't, I tried to focus on can. And then I made it into college. So after 4 years of high school, I made it into college. And as a result of some of the difficulties I was having in school because of my brain injury, my awesome counselor told me that I can receive accommodations for some of the shortcomings that came along with my TBI. Note taker, she said, extra time on tests, a separate testing area. I was like, awesome, that all sounds really great to me. Extra help would be awesome. So I remember at UNL, I told my academic advisor about the accommodations. Sounds good, he said. You'll just tell each new professor about your disability, and then you can head on over to the Students with Disabilities office, and that's where you'll take all your tests. And I thought, the Students with Disabilities office, I thought, am I disabled? Was I disabled? And he said, well, Meg, I read here in your notes that you had a TBI in 1998, right? It says here that due to your TBI, you have trouble with short-term memory, recall, multitasking. Sound right? I nodded my head, yeah. Well, that's your disability, makes sense? I just nodded my head and tried to hold back tears. And I started realizing that that TBI was going to stick around. It wasn't going anywhere. But with those accommodations and all the help they gave me at UNL, I made it into nursing school. And I was so excited to make it there. My mom's a nurse, and it was just my dream. And during my second semester there, I had a presentation to give in class. I was standing in front of the auditorium just like this. And I didn't usually get nervous. I like talking in front of people, so I was like, why is my heart just all of a sudden starting to race? I was having trouble swallowing, having trouble thinking of the right words, couldn't gather a breath. And for 10 seconds, I stared blankly, unable to look away from the left side of the room. And all the while, I think my right arm was starting to raise in the air. So after what seemed like forever to me, I continued my talk and had a seat. But luckily it was nursing school, and so a teacher of mine encouraged me, Meg, that might not be anxiety. I think you should see a neurologist. So I had a few more of those panicky anxiety feelings before my appointment a few weeks later. And the doctor just told me, sometimes when doctors deal with the same condition over and over, to them it's not a huge deal, but to the patient, it's a big deal. And the doctor just told me, Meg, you had 2 or more seizures, and therefore you have epilepsy. Epilepsy, I thought? I didn't know anyone with epilepsy. We only talked about it a few times in nursing school, so I was pretty shocked. So the stigma is there, but he immediately put me on seizure medication. And so I'd never really been on a daily medication before, so it was kind of tough to get used to at first. I was tired more often, but attributed it to nursing school. Between the long hours of, you remember in college, lack of sleep, staying up late at night, my seizures just continued. I was constantly thinking, when am I going to have my next one? And oh God, who's going to see it? And then I had to slow down my nursing program here at the Med Center and started 3 additional seizure medications. It was like about 20 pills a day. Their side effects alone were making school days more and more difficult. But I refused to give up. With the help of my awesome professors and the accommodations on testing, I graduated, became a registered nurse, and started my first job in pediatrics. But instead of carrying out my dream of taking care of patients, I was laying down, super embarrassed, in the break room after a seizure. Dizzy, exhausted. It was like my breaking point. It was like 9 years of seizures, 4 medications, 20 pills a day. I just had to do something about it. And then my doctor told me that I had another option, brain surgery, right here. He said, you know what, we'll just go in, remove the part of your brain with the scar tissue from your 1998 TBI in hopes that your seizures will stop. And I did months and months of testing, and when I finally found out I was a candidate, I made the scary decision to go forward with surgery if it meant that I could have a chance at a better life. And they removed my left temporal lobe, and then what's underneath it is the hippocampus, fancy words. And that surgery was and is the most terrifying thing I've ever done. But the seizures stopped for a while, completely. But my memory loss from all those seizures and the traumatic brain injury were here to stay. But I was so excited to get back into being a nurse and tried 3 jobs in pediatrics. But during each one, I was confronted by a supervisor. They asked me if I had trouble remembering and said that patients and fellow employees were noticing. Again, I was devastated. This time, I wasn't just telling my college professors in private about my disability. This time, I had to tell employers. I lost all 3 of those nursing jobs due to the lasting effects of my TBI and epilepsy. And I found a lot of shame and embarrassment in having a disability, but accepting that my nursing career could be over was just more than I could bear. I knew that there had to be a way that I could still use my knowledge and my passion to help others. And then I remembered a summer camp that I had volunteered at a camp for kids with cancer, and it was there where I saw the true value of bringing a group of kids together who really understood each other's illness. And it inspired me to create a similar experience for kids and teens with epilepsy in the Midwest. And so I named it Camp You Can. So many times throughout my life, I've been reminded of what I can't do. No more basketball playing, no more driving while you're having seizures, no longer able to be a nurse, no independence, no self-esteem. Kids and teens with epilepsy, they feel that way too. They know their disorder isn't just physical, and the effects are mental and emotional for those kids as well. So I wanted to create a place where kids and teens with epilepsy could come together to see all that they can do. So at Camp You Can, kids can zoom across the zip line, climb a rock wall, and shoot a bow and arrow. And it's cool walking by the cabins or standing in the lunch line. You'll hear things like, yeah, I take that medication too and it makes me really tired. Or they'll say, this is the only place where I can talk about my seizures without feeling embarrassed too. So with epilepsy, too many days are filled with reminders of what shouldn't be done, and at Camp You Can, we're on a mission to change that. And now, Camp You Can has grown into the Midwest You Can Foundation, so that we can work not only with kids, but adults like myself with epilepsy, to combat our challenges through empowerment. And we celebrate all the amazing things that we can still do. You need to know that even here today, it's been a struggle for me to say the word disability in regard to myself. But I know that my disability does not define me, for it has helped me to create, connect, and change others' lives. It is because of my disability that Camp You Can even exists. So from that fateful afternoon car ride to a camp that can change the child's life forever, my own tragedy has turned into a story of triumph for others. And that's my story about the Midwest You Can Foundation. I always like to give a brief synapse or example of where we came from. So I have a video just so I'm such a visual learner, and we wanted to capture what Camp You Can does for these kids. And I guess before we do the video, you know, I grew up Catholic myself, K through 12, and that has really led me through all of this, you know, just knowing that there is a plan for me, and even if it doesn't go the way that I thought it was, obviously it hasn't, there's still purpose and meaning for my life. And I have found that, boy, acts of service have really been what have kept me going. Because it would have been easy to sit and feel sad. I mean, it's fine to feel sad. You know, we gotta embrace our emotions and be honest with ourselves. But I could have really sat in a cave and cuddled up and been sad. But instead, I think for me, acts of service, helping others, has really helped me throughout the healing process. Just seeing the difference that it makes on kids, or when I volunteered at Madonna Rehab, where I did my rehabilitation, or when I started a volunteer program between Pius High School and Madonna Rehab, or when I volunteered at that camp for kids with cancer in California. I think for me, in my spiritual life, acts of service have really, you know, I'm following the lead of what I think that we're supposed to be doing and helping the community, and in these days, more so self-focused. I find that it really does help. And we get volunteer camp counselors. We have a program with Creighton College of Medicine, a program with Methodist College of Nursing, and they just rave about what it makes them feel like after they're done working with the kids at camp. So, does anybody have any questions at all? Does anybody want to hear any camp songs? Because I can whip them out if you would like. Me too.
Where's your location?
Yes.
What was your hardest moment at what age?
What was my hardest moment?
At what age? Were you stage in life?
Every stage. You guys know, as we become adults, it's like, oh man, I have to pay my own bills. I have to. But no, I think the hardest was when I started having seizures. And the kids at camp talk about it all the time, and they're able to relate about it all the time because, you know, just like mental illnesses, seizures are invisible. You have one and people think, oh, you're going to be up and ready to go again. No, that's not how seizures work. They wipe you out for the day. You worry about medications and things that affect us adults, like driving, drinking alcohol. Darn it. They interact with our medications, so we're strongly urged not to drink alcohol. And so it's just affected me, I think, the most when I was having seizures, because you just feel like it's going to come, it's going to happen anytime. You know, I'd be in getting ready to see a patient, and I'd have my syringe ready to give a shot, and then I would have a seizure. You know, so they come at the most inopportune times, on a date, you know, or I always thought a job interview, or when are they going to come, and when they're uncontrolled, you just never know when they're going to happen. So that was the hardest part. Yeah.
So the process of you losing your jobs as a nurse to actually starting this foundation, I mean, was that a long process? Was that just came to you? Did somebody tell you that it was a good idea to do that? I guess how did that come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So brain surgery was in 2011, and then I tried to go back as a nurse in about 2012, 2013, but, well, 2012 to 2014 probably. And throughout it all, I always loved, I met so many awesome people. It takes awesome people to be a camp counselor and to volunteer at events. And so I always kind of had it in the back of my head, like, we don't have anything like this for kids in Nebraska. But then once nursing wasn't working out for me, I have an amazing support system. So my husband, I told him, hey, what do you think? And then I have an uncle who's big in the nonprofit world, and then another friend and mentor who's in the financial field, and another board member who's a drug rep, who's, you know, really involved in the epilepsy community. And I told them I had this idea, and they were like, let's do it, let's try, let's all get together. So it's just finding those people who have the heart to be able to start something like this and lend their talents and their gifts with us to make this a real thing now. And it like happens every year, and it's just amazing, and it wouldn't be possible without our board of directors and camp counselors and medical professionals. So yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge going from the idea of having the camp to actually going through the first week?
I think, just learning all the business side, like being a registered nurse, I'm like, I can talk to you about owies and Band-Aids, but learning all of this nonprofit lingo and establishing ourselves as a nonprofit, I think that was tough, and just learning everything, the fundraising aspect of it. So I think just the networking, but once I figure that out and met awesome people, the health has gone smoothly ever since. So just learning the whole business side of things. Yep.
What are some ways we can help?
Oh my gosh, I love when people ask that. Well, you know, we have it at the Easter Eastern Nebraska 4-H Center. So we are charged around, or to hold it, around $400 a child. We charge families $150 for the kids to come to camp. Some families, with a chronic illness, it gets pricey with meds and treatment and tests. So some of the kids come for free. So I think, fundraising is always an important way to help out because, we do not like to charge families what they can't handle. So fundraising is always good, helping to pass the word on, and then we always need volunteers. As camp counselors, as people that want to come out and help with the fishing part of camp, people who would just want to hang out and while we're doing our water afternoon. So we can always, it takes a special person to volunteer and lend a hand, so we can always find a place for you. And now we are expanding our services because as an adult with epilepsy, I see that we need stuff too. So we do a monthly group, it's YAE, Young Adults with Epilepsy. And so it's for people 21 and over, and we just get together once a month, hang out, share stories with each other. So it's just a good, group to be able to talk about our epilepsy. This year, we're also holding our first SIBS camp. So siblings, special and important brothers and sisters. Because a lot of times, having a sibling with a chronic illness, they can kind of get shoved aside and not their parents' fault at all. But this will be a day camp for them to bond over what it's like having a sibling who's chronically ill. So those are just some of our programs that anyone who wants to help with would be more than welcome. Anyone? Yep.
So you said this is kind of really of this nature in the Midwest. Kind of where do you see a lot of families kind of coming from? Is it more just the Nebraska, Iowa region, or are you seeing more draw? Obviously, since there's not a whole lot of other things like this that are
Yeah.
families.
Yeah, exactly. Most of them do come from Nebraska and Iowa. But like this past summer, I received a call from a mom, and she said, "We live in Florida. I have a son who has epilepsy. There's nothing around here for us. He would love to do the zip line and the ropes course, but we need people to be able to watch him to see if he has seizures. We have all of our counselors are trained in epilepsy. We have registered nurses at camp. We have a physician at camp. So I think parents feel a lot more safe sending their child. So that mom flew her son in from Florida, and he came to Camp Buchanan this year, and they've already said we're going to send him back. We've had kids from Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, so kind of the Midwest, all around us. But Florida was awesome. We were like, oh my gosh. So yeah, we're branching out to the community because this is a unique opportunity for kids. Anyone else? Okay. Awesome. Thank you for having me here today. It was an honor to meet everyone. And if you have any questions after, I also have flyers back there. If you want to take one, it's about Camp Buchanan this year. We have a YAE, Young Adults with Epilepsy flyers back there. We have my business card. Nurses never have business cards, but now that I'm doing the nonprofit deal, I'm a nurse that can have business card. So, business card back there too. And yeah, thank you so much for the invite.
Thanks so much, Meg, for sharing your story, and then also what you do at the camp and the foundation. And as a token of our appreciation as young Catholic professionals, our patron saint is Saint Joseph the Worker. So we have a statue here of him. So when you see this in your office or in your home, please pray for us, and we'll do the same for you. So thanks again. Okay, so we have a couple more things this evening for the year-end banquet. I am going to, first of all, thank you guys all again for coming tonight. I forgot to thank Father Dan Andrews as well, if you want to raise your hand real quick, for saying Mass tonight and also being in attendance. But as this is our year-end banquet for 2019, it's also a time to look forward to 2020 and what we're going to be doing for the upcoming year. So I am going to introduce our leadership team, and I'm going to first of all introduce our 2020 Young Catholic Professionals Omaha President, Mr. Mark Morrow.
All right, everybody. So Justin and I thought we might have some confetti or party hats for me. He kind of let me down. Maybe had some New Year's Eve leftover party favors, but overall, just everybody's presence here is enough for me. It's always a joy to see everybody that chooses to come to these events. Meg, thank you for your words today. You have an amazingly courageous story, and thanks for sharing it. Father, thank you for doing Mass today as well. I like that you define YCP as a movement. That's not often called that, but when it is, it kind of reinvigorates our spirit, and thank you for the prayers also for us. So, YCP 2020, it's got a great ring to it, right? I kind of wish this was a more echoey microphone. YCP 2020, you know? We can say that all year this year. I'm really excited that this day finally has come about. It's been on my mind for some time, and since it's finally here, I can breathe a sigh of relief because now it's just time to get to work and hopefully, and God willingly, make it a thoughtful, purposeful, and fun year for all of us within this group. I'm excited to take a larger role to keep sustaining and hopefully growing this great group and grow this mission. I do believe in YCP, and I do believe we can continue to do great things for one another, our community, but also ourselves individually. YCP helps us become better people through our speakers' wisdom, our panel's insight, our community service, and just being around like-minded people, among many other ways. Coming to YCP just over a year and a half ago was one of the best decisions I've ever made. If you also feel like it was a good decision coming to these events, keep it up. And if you have the time to do so, or the ability to do so, find more ways to help us grow and encourage others. If you do not feel that way about your decision now, that it's a good place to be, that's okay. Hopefully over time you'll start to see that this community of like-minded people who are willing to step outside of their comfort zone and share their faith and work journeys is really unique and worth your time as well. YCP's mission statement, as you can see, is working in witness for Christ. That's the national slogan, so to speak. I'm sure most of us work today and Christ was in our mind, in our hearts in some capacity. This group encourages that. The more events I attend, this mission statement becomes more prevalent to me. Coming to these events can sometimes be hard though, like when you have a long day at work. Family issues arise. You have a friend pulling you in another direction, or you may just be too busy, or you didn't feel the vibe at the last meeting. Whatever it may be, sometimes just getting ready to come here is difficult. I sometimes feel and understand that. Just know that over time, things can really add up here. We are in God's presence, and this community emphasizes that. We have all been called to be here. Something gave us the courage, the will, and the endurance to come here tonight and past nights also. Do you guys all remember your first event? It was somewhat difficult. If this is one of your first events now, you may be experiencing this, but trust me, it gets easier. And I believe this group can be one of the best groups that we've ever been a part of. I feel it, and we all have the same mission, to work in witness for Christ. We have been called here, and we choose to live it out. We do not know exactly why, but the important thing is that we are here, attempting to understand the reason why as best as we can. The YCP Omaha chapter is important. Just look at where we are geographically. Right in the middle there. So you take that point off, there's a pretty big void in the middle of the country. Let's keep this point on the map strong and sustain it for as many years as possible. Heck, if we do so, maybe Des Moines and Minneapolis, Kansas City will have a point also. And some of our metropolitan neighbors living near us will have the same mission that we do. I know Des Moines right now is hoping on forming a chapter this year. With that being said, I want to acknowledge everyone who is here tonight. Yes, all of you. Some of you may have had classes in the past about public speaking, and I remember my past professor saying that you have to know your audience, right? Well, I want to do that and add just a sense of purpose and belongingness to our day-to-day lives as young Catholic professionals participating in this group. While it would be fun to try to acknowledge everybody individually, for the sake of time, I thought I would acknowledge just some groups that are here and that have been called to be here throughout the years. So let's start by recognizing past leaders and past members. So if you could raise your hand if you're a past leader or past leader. I know we stood. You previously contributed to this group and you're here tonight. We can still use some of your wisdom and care. Keep coming to these events, and although you may be busier now, try to come to an event or two every quarter. You belong here. Now let's recognize people who have only been to one to three meetings. As mentioned earlier, I know that it can be hard to get yourself to come to these events. It gets easier. Just meet one or two new people each time, and things will turn out great for you. You can help support the life of the group and can infuse new ideas into the room. We want to see you back. You belong here. To the people that have been coming for a few years or just recent months, perhaps you've decided not to be a member or a leader, but you still chose to be here. You're kind of in that middle ground. Maybe something at work is keeping you busy. Maybe you haven't got all you want out of this group, but just keep coming. Keep talking to people. Keep your ears open because you never know when one speaker or someone here might give you that one piece of advice that you need to hear that might alter your path. And if you start to feel the call when the time is right, become a member or leader in our group. You also belong here. And now for our current members. You've been generous enough to give back to this community and give back some of your resources that you work hard for. You have felt the calling and decided to give your time and share some of your resources, as I said. I'd like to invite all the members, the paying members, or anybody that gave in 2019 up to the front, if you could, please. So, 2020 is going to be about outreach. First, let's give them all a round of applause. We have a ton of members up here. This is great to see. I love this. Tommy and Lindsay, if you could start passing out. I have a little bit of a token here for all of our members. And 2020 is all about outreach for us next year. This is something that's kind of been lacking in years past. And what we're handing out now is our YCP business cards. And whenever we come across somebody maybe at Mass or at the gym or at the grocery store, and something strikes you about that person, you think they may be a good candidate to come to this group, you now have a resource to pass to them. Okay? Each of you have 7 cards, and I can't wait for the first person to come back to me and say, I'm due for another batch of business cards, so that we can keep encouraging this group. Okay? So, just a token for me to keep this prevalent in your mind, put it in your wallet or in your purse, and the next person you see at Mass or come across that you think would benefit, give them one of those cards. So, thank you very much, members. One more round of applause. And if you didn't get the message on the theme of this, our members belong here too, which is great. So I want everybody to know what YCP is quickly. So the next slide is the tentative 2020 calendar. I want everybody to see it now because I've heard in the past some people get concerned about all the dates. You know, some people are nursing or just have lots of busy travel schedules. Well, this is made and it's actually going to be sent out to everybody. Some things may change over time, but you should hear about any changes on social media or in discussion with friends. So as you can see here, we have 12 executive speaker events. That's like tonight. We have 4 socials, including our first event with our new leadership team, which will be bowling at Immaculate Conception Church on February 4th, 2020. On the pamphlets that you guys have, it has our next 3 events outlined in a little bit better detail. I think the bowling is going to be a lot of fun. I hope to see every single one of you there. If you haven't been to the church and to the bowling alleys underneath the church, it's a pretty cool venue. We will have 3 panels this year. And if you notice, all those events that I've just mentioned, they're all on Tuesday. Okay? We will attempt to do 6 community service events this year and 2 retreats. Those will be on Saturdays. We are planning to have a half year of the way celebration of community service and a College World Series day. Those will be all lumped together on a Saturday. So it should be a full YCP day, which should be fun. And of course, there will be other minor events throughout the year, like sports events, game nights, happy hours. But those tend to happen more organically with our group. So the more people you meet at these meetings, the more likely you are to find out about some of those more organic, smaller groups as well. It took me a while to find my niche here, but overall I've been fortunate and I've been able to find those deeper connections here. And I believe over time, you all will feel the same. So with that, I want to finally recognize our leadership team for 2020. So please stand when your name is called. Our Director of Membership and Vice President is Lindsay Carroll. Our Director of Operations and Vice President is Tommy Owens. Our Assistant Director of Operations is Elizabeth Schneider. Our Director of Evangelization and Liturgy is Jim Gerner. Director of Finance, Eric Lampe. Director of Outreach, Kevin Kawa. Assistant Director of Outreach, Savannah Cuevas. Community Service Coordinator, Mario Federes. Director of Marketing, Mariana Estrada. Assistant Director of Marketing, Katie Peters. Assistant Director of Marketing and Photographer, Maddie Schwenka. Director of Technology, Jacob Rosebaugh. Thank you guys so much for stepping up. Let's give them a round of applause. And it was really a plea for help from me to find leaders, but it was really amazing. You know, God, as I mentioned, God willingly, I asked 10 people to be directors, and I had got 10 yeses. So it was really beautiful. I cannot do it alone. We will work as a team to make 2020 another successful year for YCP. So again, thanks for stepping up. So I know I've talked a lot tonight. I feel like I've rambled a little bit. Public speaking is not my number one style. I'm usually the behind-the-scenes strategy guy, planning, and I think that's how I stumbled into this role as president. But I have a final quick thought, and as I said at the beginning, or kind of in the middle there, our events are all on Tuesdays. So I came up with a group motto for us. All right. And I hope this catches on this year. The idea is, keep your Tuesday nights free. Tuesdays are for YCP. Ready? Hit it again, Cole. Keep your Tuesday nights free. Tuesdays are for YCP. Sing along with me. Keep your Tuesday nights free. Tuesdays are for YCP. You all belong here. I want you to know that. Let's continue to be working in witness for Christ. And that's all I have for tonight. Thanks for everyone. And I really appreciate it. It should be a great year. Thank you. Final words from Justin.
Not too many final words, but thanks again. Thank you, Mark. Best of luck to your team, and thank you all to the leaders who will be carrying on our mission in 2020.